Hi, Brent. I heard yesterday that Zoom was doing a bunch of upgrading and changing around, so I wondered if we might have an issue this morning. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Sylvia.
What did you say, Dan?
There's a little piece in the paper about Zoom bombers,
Yeah,
jumping passwords and adding things that weren't appreciated.
Morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi,
Hi, Chris. Morning.
I'm cleaning my glasses.
Hi, Nancy.
Who else are we expecting?
we never know.
We never know.
If there's pounding going on, it's because there are workers putting siding on my house this morning.
Oh,
On Sunday morning,
Well, they were trying to fit this job in between something else.
well, we'll pray for them.
I'm liking these books.
Hi, Chip.
1978.
yeah, all run together.
And Mrs. going to join us?
Don't know.
Sorry.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Sylvia. Morning, Lynn.
Good morning, Steve.
Dan Bean, is this your 14th day
It is.
of quarantine?
If I make it till midnight without getting the virus, then I'm clear.
Yay.
Yay.
And then what's different? Not much is going to be different, is it?
I don't think anything's going to be different. I don't think I'm going far.
I hear somebody's clock.
You need to go on mute.
Oh, I need to mute ours because you can hear the mantle clock. Sorry, just a second.
Well, welcome again, everyone. Looks like we'll be doing this for a little while longer. I'm trying to record this. We'll see if it works. Then we could post it on our website and Facebook if other folks want to see it. Are there joys or concerns that we should mention this morning? Excuse me. There's Frank. Chip wanted us to know that he has a joy that his bedroom is about done. But he also has a concern that Jack Butler, who is in the hospital with COVID and not doing well. So I think Nancy knows Jack.
Yes. He was first clarinet and then me in band. a lot of marching.
We know that Mike Moyer and Justin, the pastor at New Providence, are still fighting for their life in Iowa.
Mm.
Dan Bean, do you have an update on Mary Glenn Hadley? We know her.
I talked to Mary Glenn last Sunday, and I've not talked to her since. And she has nephews and nieces staying with her 24 hours a day, and her tumor keeps growing, and so she's finding it harder to breathe all the time. I've not heard anything new since then.
All stem cell transplants have been put off for 90 days. So one that I may have had as early as the end of this month is now probably August. But the cancer numbers aren't running away, so nobody's getting excited.
Well, I'd remind people you might want to mute your microphone in case others join us, because there could be feedback, and then unmute when you'd like to speak. Dan's the worship leader this morning, so we'll begin with some silence, and when Dan feels led, he'll share.
Some words of Jesus from the book of John. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch of mine that bears no fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If a man does not abide in me, he is cast forth as a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you will, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. The earth is tilting again, such that the northern hemisphere leans toward the sun. This brings more daylight and warmth. This cycle has been repeating for ages. The dormant plants and animals revive. There is more bird song. I have welcomed the sound of phoebes, eastern bluebirds, cardinals, titmouses, nuthatches, woodpeckers of at least 2 varieties, juncos, and doves. I have unwelcomed the sparrows, the brown-headed cowbirds, and starlings. This happens each spring. Although vultures picking apart a roadkill squirrel in the driveway was a first for me. All creatures have a place, I guess. As the trees refill with groundwater, the leaf and bloom buds swell. At the end of the maple sap tapping days is when the buds burst. The sap starts the second half of the cycle, and the taste becomes bitter as the sugar in it has diminished. This is the time of tree branch culling and pruning usually occurs, or should occur, or at my place might occur. I have fruit trees and grapevines. It's very real and meaningful to me when Jesus says, every branch of mine that bears no fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. As the branch cannot bear the fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine and you are the branches. There was a burning of branches and prunings in my garden this week. The pile was a collection that had been growing since the end of the last gardening season. I had left it there for any birds or ground critters that might need a windy winter shelter. But the pole saw started with no complaints, so I trimmed and my daughter dragged and pitched the cuttings on the pile. Then she trimmed and I dragged and pitched. I pitched not just the branches, but a fit when the cuttings were too big for me to handle. Now it was time to reduce it to ash and scatter it prior to tilling up the dirt. According to my Granny Simmons, the potatoes were to be planted on Good Friday, and the clock was ticking. I have a propane weed burner that does a fine job of putting a lot of heat where it's aimed. But due to the gap between the twigs, cardboard, and flammable hydrocarbons were necessary to bring forth the inferno. As the fire burns low, it's necessary to get the unburned ends back into the hot spot, and that takes a fire rake. The one rake in the shed that's used to tidy up the fire so that all the debris is consumed. Bamboo and plastic rakes won't do. It's a metal one with scorch marks from previous use. If, like me, you grew up burning leaves in the fall, you know what I mean. I don't know how the vine dressers of Jesus' day got a brush pile to ignite. That is, I didn't know until I wrote that sentence. If you have internet connections and curiosity, I guess there's no longer a reason to say, I don't know. Turns out that an archaeology find of a piece of limestone with holes in it was once thought to be part of a game. It has recently been identified as a fire starting device. It has 2 holes that receive wooden pegs that when spun in the sockets create enough heat by friction to ignite the tinder underneath. The article didn't say if they found the fire rake. Back to the burning pile of unproductive. I don't think Jesus was speaking of grapevines, but of the alive and growing connection to God and to the Word of God that is available to me. In the time up to now, it has been for me to choose to live in the presence of a productive branch. That branch being the Christian community of people that I align with, the West Newton Quaker branch and the Church of the Brethren before that. These branches have served me well for the knowledge and examples of Christianity that I can adopt for myself. The pruning part cuts a little closer. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes. In the time up to now, there were bad habits and behaviors that I have given up. I realized that they were unproductive and could become ruinous. They were personal and crowd temptations that I had given into. It took some time to realize the evil in them. When I ask for help and pray, "Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil," this is where it fits, right here. As with any pruning, there will be new sprouts. There will be fresh Christian growth for the contemporary times. In the time from now on, this is where I am to be fruitful. I hope you can join me there.
Well, thank you, Dan, for those words and for friends for joining us. It's good to see Chris on the call. And I would just remind us, we only get 40 free minutes. So try not to join too far ahead of the meeting because the first person who joins, that starts the clock running. So unless we want to pay to upgrade to a higher level. But Dan, it's good to have you from Iowa and Frank from Terre Haute. And Tom, are you in Bloomington or Noblesville today?
I'm still sequestered in Bloomington.
Okay. And Christy and Chip, we're glad. It's good to see everybody's faces. So please be in touch. You can thank them. Nancy says thank you for remembering her. We walked all the way out to the mailbox and back yesterday. Only took 4 hours. But so she slept well last night. So stay safe. If there's things you need, please let folks know what we can do. So it's good to see you all.